God did it again. He put the right song at the right time. Because we're just getting ready to talk about coming to the table. And what song plays?
Come to the table.
Wow, that's perfect.
Wow.
We're about to merge two things that I just think are excellent.
Okay.
Number one, dinner.
I gotta agree with you.
Dinner. Number two, church.
Oh.
Love church.
Yep.
Danaka, hello.
Hello. How are you today?
Good.
We're good.
Now, is it a true statement to say that you are a pastor?
Yes, it is.
Well, then guess what? We want to say to you, Happy Pastor Appreciation Month.
Yes, we do.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So, Danica, I hear that you are a pastor at a church that combines dinner. Is it just called Dinner Church, or what is this?
It is a mobile dinner church model. So what we do is during the warm months of the year, May through October, we find a neighborhood to go have dinner in while we do church. So currently we're in Harristown, Illinois, on the, west side of Decatur, in someone's front yard. And we set up and we eat a meal. And while we eat, I talk and give a sermon passage about Jesus. And then we hear some testimonies on how God's working in their lives.
Wow.
Does that sound great?
That sounds really cool.
So you do it on Tuesday nights, right?
We do. We picked a night of the week that this is a secret I'm only going to share with you guys.
Okay.
The night of the week is that my daughter could babysit for us that night because she didn't ever have homework on Tuesday night.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's so good. Now I'm hearing some people guessing. I can read the thoughts of our listeners. It's a new skill, or at least I think I can. I probably can't. But so I'm hearing people thinking, okay, wait a minute. So you get together on Tuesdays. Is that like, what do you do on Sunday mornings?
On Sundays, my husband and I, we travel sometimes and talk at other churches about what we do on Tuesdays.
Okay.
And if we're not traveling, we're enjoying our time together. We watch a sermon online, or we may go to a friend's church.
All right. Now, the next question we have on our list of questions here is, why do you have dinner during church? But I'm going to scratch that question because that's a dumb question. Why wouldn't you have dinner during church? We would like to know, though, what have you found as you've done this so far?
Oh, okay. So what we found is that people are more relaxed because you're eating. In the first part, they're a little nervous because they're not used to being served and loved. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. We're not used to people giving us something with nothing in return. And so it takes a few months for everyone to get comfortable. And then they start opening up and realizing, oh, I do like to be loved. Oh, this is nice. I can enjoy time with other people. And when that happens, the testimonies start coming, and you'll find how they start to recognize God in their lives. And I think that's the biggest problem we have right now in America, a lot of times we look at church on Sunday morning as something we have to go to and a ritual that we walk through. But God is a relationship. And as we sit down and we talk in a relationship setting, like a dinner or a meal, or even just some quiet time, we find that God is around us all the time. And as we experience him more and more, and we hear how other people are experiencing him, we can see even more of him throughout our lives. And that's how they start to build that relationship with him and become stronger Christians.
That's the truth.
Wow.
That's really good.
Yeah.
We're talking to Danica. They do a thing called Dinner Church. She happens to be in the Decatur area. We'll get to the bottom of this a little bit more and just kind of ask some more questions. If you have a question you'd like us to ask her, you're welcome to text that to us, 866-917-9245, and chat with her a bit here in just a few minutes. Danica is here. She is a pastor, and she does something called Dinner Church.
Yeah. Dinner and church. I mean, like you were saying, Jonathan, two of the best things in the world combined.
It's a beautiful thing. They get together. They have a meal on Tuesday nights. They're in the Decatur area, but you could literally do this anywhere. I was wondering, Danica, if you could speak to people who are not currently connected to church. People have all kinds of different reasons for that. And we're not saying you have to go to a dinner church or you have to go to this or that. But like, what do you feel are some of the big reasons why people are disconnected, other than COVID right now? What do you think is out there, and what do you think needs to happen about it?
Ooh, Good questions. I think that a lot of us are looking for authenticity. And to do that, we want something that we feel comfortable with. And sometimes church rituals don't make us feel comfortable just because we don't know what they are if we haven't been going. So finding a place in your life where you can learn about Jesus without having that thought process of, I don't know what I'm doing right now, kind of helps clear our head and helps us find Jesus. The other thing I think is the problem is like in Simon in Acts 8, Simon the sorcerer wanted to pay for the Holy Spirit, and he was told, no, you can't do that. And I think so many of us may know that there's a Jesus. A lot of us don't, but we're really confused on what we're supposed to do with that knowledge. I heard yesterday, I'm like, Satan knows there's a Jesus. Satan recognizes who Jesus is, but he's not going to heaven. So what's the next step for Christians? We can recognize Jesus. We can know who he is. What else do we need to do? And kind of follow that path. And so a lot of us are confused. And in order to become unconfused, we have to find a safe environment to learn.
That's the truth. I like
That's
that.
very true. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're listening, and sometimes we talk to people that just are very new to the whole spiritual thing, anytime, and you can share this with other people too, just to sort of get connected and reach out if you want to say hi, you can just text the word Jesus to 866-917-9245. You can read some cool stuff. We'd love to get connected. There may be some people listening that are nowhere near where you're at doing this Tuesday night dinner church thing in Decatur. Maybe they're in Morris. Maybe they're in Carbondale or Terre Haute, so they couldn't come in for what you're doing, but they do feel disconnected in a spiritual sense. Like, what would you suggest that they do where they're at?
I would suggest they take those talents that God's given them. Mine is cooking, but yours may be woodworking, volleyball coaching, I don't know, and use your talents to find a group of people who enjoy what you do, and at that point in time, you guys can all learn together. It doesn't have to be dinner church. I know there's basketball church out there. I know there's CrossFit church out there.
No.
It's just, it needs to be a family environment where we can be authentic and learn from each other about how God's using us and what he's doing in our lives.
I mean, God gives us our interests and our talents, and they're all for him. Am I going to CrossFit church or am I going to dinner church? Let me think about that. Wow.
Yeah, I think I'll find myself at dinner church too if those are the two options. But that's just really true. And so could you share with us something that you feel like God has spoken to you through this?
Wow. Okay. Deep question. God continually speaks through us, and everyone keeps asking me for a 5-year plan, and I don't have one. And I know in this world it tells us we're supposed to plan ahead. But I think when we rest and we follow God step by step in his time, we find that we don't have to always know the answers. We don't have to know the next step, and that's okay. But this world tells us that's scary. And we need to retrain our brains to think that, no, we're following God, we're doing what we're supposed to, and that's okay.
Okay, so Danaka, how long have you been doing dinner church?
We started last year in September, so just over a year right now.
Okay. Was this like how was this inspired? Was it inspired like by the COVID pandemic and thinking like outside the box of how to reach people, or?
Actually, this was inspired by God. About a year before that, in July, it was just last July. So a year ago, July, God told me that it was time to leave work. I was working at a church in the office area, but I wasn't doing a lot of ministry. And he said it's time to go do ministry, but he wouldn't tell me where or how. So I had to take that step of faith and walk out before he would open the next door, kind of like in Joshua 3, where the priest had to walk into the flood with the ark before he would stop the waters. So I did, and he then left me in this nice little time of quiet that drives most of us crazy, and I started thinking and praying about what I needed to do next, and he showed me that we all have talents, and we all have to take those talents because they're our gifts from God, and use them to spread his word. And so at that point in time, I started going through what are my talents. My husband and I have always loved cooking, so we thought, well, we can cook for people, but I don't know what you want me to do with that, God. So we started looking into that, and we actually discovered dinner church is nothing new. It started in the same time in New York and in Washington State. And it's kind of started flooding through the U.S. There's a lot of dinner churches out there. We just do ours a little different. And from that point on, God's just been along with each step that we go. So we pray about it, like, what's the next step? First, it was at our house. Okay, well, our house is great for people we know, but it doesn't get the word out. So it's like, okay, well, a neighborhood. How do we reach a neighborhood? And then God sent us the wonderful host that we have right now. And she offered up her yard, so we went to her yard, and it just keeps moving. And so we're getting ready right now to find a winter home. So we've been praying about that because obviously we can't be outside all winter. So.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That does make sense. How long do you stay like in one area?
I like to do it over a season because it takes a while for people to get used to what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So the first one was September through May, and then we were May through October. And so now our next one will probably be October through May again.
Cool.
Okay. Oh.
So what can you do, other than eat dinner, obviously, what can you do at dinner church that typically wouldn't happen in a church auditorium on a Sunday morning?
I think it allows people to be more authentic and vulnerable. You're in a relaxing setting. You're not sitting in rows where you can't talk to others. We actually set our tables up in a square most of the time so that we can have large group discussions. And we get to become family. So our community puts it together. The really awesome thing that happened this year was Ken and I took a vacation, and dinner church still happened. So I know it's not just us.
Yeah.
I know it's not something we're pushing, but people all stepped up, and our children brought the trailer with all our supplies. Someone made desserts. Someone made the meals. Someone made the meat. And everyone worked together, and it still happened, which to me was a huge blessing and testimony that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. So what's for dinner tonight?
Tonight is chicken parmesan.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. Wow.
Anybody want to go to dinner church?
Yeah, everyone's welcome.
That is really cool. So, like, what's the format? You get there, you sit down, and then obviously a meal comes out or something. But like, what do you do while you're there other than you've already said people will share their testimonies and you have dinner? But what else happens?
I usually do a sermon. So we talk about a Jesus story and what Jesus was trying to do at that moment and how that relates to our life. So what are we thinking about? So I pulled one out just to have an example. One of my favorite ones is when Jesus is looking for Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus runs up in the tree because he's looking for Jesus too. And we walk through that passage in Luke 19:10 or 19:1 through 10. And we look at it and we see that Zacchaeus was active. We see the crowd did something, and we see Jesus did something. And we talked to them, I talked to them about, where are you? Are you searching for God like Zacchaeus, or are you already a Christian and you know Jesus? Because if you're a Christian and you know Jesus, we're not supposed to be identifying with Zacchaeus in that passage. We're supposed to be identifying with Jesus in that passage. And I try to put a Jesus spin on all of it. So are you following Jesus within your life? Or are you still searching for Jesus, and here he is?
I like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's good. What feedback have you gotten from people that have been attending?
We've got awesome feedback. We have story after story. When I started going around to churches to preach, I told God, I'm like, God, I can't just do this and say it works without some examples. So I need some examples. And one of the examples is we took cookies over Christmas last year and to different families. And when we took cookies to one house, we actually got to meet the husband because we hadn't met him yet. And we ended up becoming part of their lives just through a bag of cookies and helping them restore their marriage, helping him get off alcohol. He got baptized and became a member of the church, which is so awesome.
That is.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have another lady who, we were in a neighborhood cleaning up someone's yard, And one of their neighbors came out who we knew from before, and she was having a really rough day. And so we walked around the block and we talked, and I invited her to church. And she started coming, and she has found a support system. And we actually eat out every couple of weeks just to see how life is going. And she's on a new path, and she wants her life changed, and she wants to learn more about Jesus. So when we get out into the world and we recognize the people around us, we can become a relationship with them and lead them towards Jesus. It doesn't have to happen overnight. It doesn't have to be evangelism 101, take Jesus now or never have him. It's just a learning process that we all have to go through.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's so true. That you're kind of hitting the nail on the head, that relationship with people takes more than just maybe just a one-time encounter, and it really requires patience on both ends. But the results can be so worth it if we're willing to really invest in somebody.
Yeah.
Definitely. The other thing we do, which I didn't mention, is that we have meals to go afterwards. We always bring to-go containers, and we ask people to take the little flyer that I put on the tables to someone who needs to feel loved. And so we've had a couple of widowers. One man from our church has taken a meal to each of them for the last year. So every week they get a visit from someone.
Wow, that's great. The food is kind of the entry point there. I mean, they might not have gone over and visited necessarily every week otherwise, but the fact that they're bringing food with them kind of cultivates that relationship, doesn't it?
Yeah, it opens a lot of doors when people are hungry.
Is Jesus low carbohydrate?
We always prepare something along those lines because I like to go low carb, so it's always available. Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to say no to that, but